Before we get started, I just kind of want to preface this by saying that this guide is going to be extremely general for the sake of keeping the video from being too long. Each section in this guide could be broken down into its own video. If you want to see me do this, let me know in the comments what section. Therefore, this guide is going to be focused towards newer players that need to learn the basics. Nonetheless, experienced players might still find something useful, so keep watching. ARB is a game mode enjoyed by a lot of players, ranging from those playing prior to the release of Open Beta for Ground Forces in October 2014, where that was the only game mode available, to level 10s with only 5 planes unlocked. Although it's changed significantly over the years, it's still enjoyed by many. As discussed in my previous video, enjoying your gameplay is necessary to playing this game successfully. A large part of enjoying ARB is being able to have an effect on the match, not just losing your plane immediately. So let's discuss, in my opinion of course, how to do this properly. Success begins in the hangar. Aside from ensuring your settings and your keybinds are all set, first determine what you want to accomplish out of the match. Do you want to ground pound, go for good dogfights against fighters, hunt bombers, bomb bases? You are unenviable. Target ships. To be honest, I don't even know why I put this one in here. Once you've answered this, you can choose what plane you want to fly. Obviously, try to fly a plane that matches your goal. Fighters for dogfights, long-range bombers for bombing bases, attackers, dive or medium-range bombers for ground pounding, torpedo bombers for ships, again, don't mind me, and interceptors for bomber hunting. Now, these are all very general descriptions, and a lot of planes can be used pretty interchangeably, but if you're new, this is all you really need to worry about for the moment, at least until you gain familiarity. For the sake of this guide, I'm going to keep it short by not going into details of exceptions to these descriptions. If you aren't familiar with each plane yet, please head over to the stat card to check the type of plane. A side note, while you're on the stat card, check your SL and your RP modifiers. If gaining RP is a priority for you, try to prioritize a fun plane with a good modifier for it, with the main priority being on fun. Moreover, do not rely on just the stat card to determine your plane's strengths. Try it out in some test flights. Familiarize yourself with it, how it pulls, rolls, yaws, how it dives, how fast it is, and its stall speeds. With your plane selected, abilities memorized, and your goals in mind, you're ready to roll. You'll start out in prop planes, which I'll break into 4 sections: interceptors, base bombers, ground pounders, and fighters. Interceptors, pretty straightforward. Climb a bit, fly fast towards the bases on the map, kill hopefully more than one bomber at altitude if you're lucky. Base bombers, also pretty straightforward. Fly straight, pray you don't get killed before you drop your bombs, RTB, rinse and repeat. Shout out to you bomber mains, I really don't understand you, but I really do respect you. Ground pounders do get a bit trickier. Try to fly towards the enemy ground units in a direction that you'll get there without being seen, or that you're before the enemies. It's all about your positioning and, of course, luck. Almost 99% of the time this means not flying straight in, unless you want to dive and get a couple of AAA kills and then get furballed and die. Last and definitely most complicated, fighters. Fly these according to their strengths. In almost all fighters, it's true that you should climb to some extent. Some planes don't perform well above certain altitudes, so generally don't go above those altitudes. This is why it's largely important to test fly and to know your plane's abilities, as mentioned previously. In general, with exceptions of course, the more altitude you have, the better. The higher plane will almost always win a dogfight if it's played properly and carefully. Guides on how to do this in the future. Another important mention here is energy. I'll go more in depth with this in jets, but keep in mind your state of energy, which is your speed plus your altitude. Planes with more energy, albeit less altitude, may still have a chance in a dogfight, though this is not advised. In short, in general, try to keep your altitude or energy high, but only speed will help you in a pinch. Positioning is not super important as long as you don't put yourselves into 1v2 or 1v3 or more situations, and assuming you have more energy or altitude than the other plane. Jets can get a little bit trickier, but still of course are to be played to their specific strengths. To keep it short, jet bombers and ground pounders are pretty much the same as they are in props, although now you need to watch out for missiles. Good luck. More on this later. Fighters are not. Speed is king in most jet games, and altitude is not as important, although probably more important than speed is in props. To be successful in a jet, you must be fast, have your head on a swivel, and spot enemies without relying on the spotting system, because closing speeds can be significantly higher than in props, and of course we all know how the War Thunder spotting system works. Sometimes it is just impossible to predict players' flight paths into the match, and you'll find someone on your 6. Be proficient in defensive flying techniques. Potential guide on this in the future? Let me know down below. Also, try to keep a cool head. Often you do just simply get unlucky. I do see a lot of skill issues all the time, I will admit, but also just a lot of plain unfortunate stuff. Obligatory, this could be a whole other video, but I'll try my best to keep it brief. There's 2 types of missiles you need to worry about: heat-seeking and radar missiles. Heat-seeking missiles are typically shorter range, quote-unquote harder pulling, yeah don't even get me started, missiles meant to be used ideally on targets showing their afterburners flying in a straight path away from you. If not possible, try to lead your missile by pulling ahead of them, utilizing your bore sight. The outer circle is the limit you can pull to without losing a lock. Try to lead as much as possible. Launch as closely as possible, obviously not too closely so that your missile can't turn and hit its target, to give your missile more energy to hit its target. If you're trying to avoid a heat seeker, cut your afterburner, or drop your throttle as far as possible if you're in a hot plane. If you're in one of these, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, don't worry. Then drop a few flares, do not dump them. If the missile is still following, or it reacquires you after completion of these steps, drop a couple more and rinse and repeat. Then turn out of the flight path of your flares and the missile. Radar missiles are a little bit more complicated, but I'll give you my short version. To fire, acquire and maintain a radar lock. Ideal targets are traveling head-on, acquired with pulse Doppler radar mode. Less ideal, but still possible targets are acquired traveling other directions via SRC mode, but this can be easily chaffed away. Make sure you're familiar with your missile and its range. If you're launched on, drop chaff and try to notch the radar. If you're still locked, keep turning away until RWR indicates that a lock is lost, or go cold until the lock is lost. Ground clutter can also be useful for breaking radar locks, which is why you see a lot of top tier planes flying really low to the ground. As mentioned before, radar can be used to spot, lock onto, and launch on targets. Be familiar with all of your keybinds and what their function is. This cannot be emphasized enough. Test flights are crucial for this. Different radar modes are useful for different things. Again, common theme. This could be a whole other guide. Just familiarize yourself in test flights versus AI and it will make sense. If you're being locked, to lose it, consider dropping chaff and notching the radar. Notching means flying perpendicular to, or 90 degrees to, the enemy that's locking you. Look at your RWR to know when you're in a good notch. RWR is your radar warning receiver, which indicates where you're being spotted or locked by other radars from. If for some reason this doesn't work, dive to the deck and go cold, or fly away from, the enemy. Try to keep an eye on your RWR to make sure that your angles are good. Settings and keybinds are probably the most important thing without their own section in this video, especially radar and weapon selection keybinds. I find these kind of difficult to cover and again need to emphasize the importance of test flights or test games to make sure you become familiar with all of your keybinds. It's just one of those things that needs to be done on your own. I know I didn't discuss the different radar modes. Let's try and save that for its own dedicated video since there's so much to talk about there. Also, to keep it a common theme, have fun. I know it sounds stupid and simple, but trust me, it's important. As soon as you find yourself not doing this, consider trying a different plane or keeping in mind a different goal for the match. Be careful not to burn yourself out. Of course, if you have fun doing something different from this guide in War Thunder, by any means, please go for it. For example, flying a bomber with the purpose of trying to kill fighters. I know there exist out there some bombers with some scary big guns on the back of them that might be fun to use. Also, when you just turn around in 3 seconds by dumping all your speed, that might be fun or funny or quirky. I don't know, I'm reaching here. Help me out, guys. As usual, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment with any future content you want to see or any recommendations about this content, anything I can improve on. Other than that, boys, stay tuned. I'm going to be heading over to Twitch right now, starting up my stream. Yes, I am recording this right before my stream, so catch me over there if you want to. And also join up in the Discord. It's a great community there, good place to find squad mates, get stream updates, going live notifications, all that good stuff. So anyways, boys, without further ado, stay tuned, and this is Nimbo Soup, Nimbo signing out.